The Central Bank of Nigeria yet to disburse 600 billion naira manufacturing intervention funds. Pencom recovers 553.03 million naira from defaulting employers. Nigeria records 7.37 trillion naira foreign trade deficit in 2020, says the National Bureau of Statistics. Plus, Asia-Pacific markets mixed as shares in Japan, South Korea struggle for gains. The program is Business Express and we're reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Leah Katun Babatunde. Now, the Central Bank of Nigeria says 600 billion naira out of the 1 trillion naira COVID-19 intervention fund for manufacturers is still awaiting disbursements. CBN Governor Godwin Emefiele, who said 400 billion naira has already been disbursed to beneficiaries, noted that the fund has increased activity in the manufacturing sector, which has begun to thrive, while adding that the manufacturing industry has been a key focus of the efforts by the monetary and fiscal authorities towards driving recovery of the Nigerian economy. Emefiele said CBN's efforts have aided the recovery of the manufacturing sector as reflected in the Purchasing Managers Index, which shows that the index on activities rose from a low of 42.4 points in May 2020 to 48.7 points in February 2021. The National Pensions Commission says it recovered 553.03 million naira from defaulting employers who deducted their workers' monthly emoluments but failed to remit to their retirement savings account with their respective pensions fund administrators (PFAs). Pencom, who stated this in its monthly report for the fourth quarter of 2020, said out of this amount, the principal contribution of the workers was 382.46 million naira, while penalties of 170.57 million naira was recovered through recovery agents. The Commission also noted that during the period under review, the pension industry recorded a net marginal growth of 0.72% in membership schemes during the quarter under review, rising from 9.2 million contributors as at the end of the preceding quarter to 9.27 million as at Q4 2020. The growth in the industry membership was driven by the Retirement Savings Account Scheme, which had an increase of 68,749 registered contributors. And before we go ahead with the program, let's see how the Naira is exchanging for other currencies. Now, every March 8, women around the world rise to celebrate the International Women's Day, and yesterday was not an exception. Now, despite all the voices raised, the United Nations posits that at the current rate of progress, gender equality among heads of government, for instance, will take another 130 years. Now, COVID has brought another dimension to the issues of inequality. It is estimated that in the front line, women get paid 11% less than their male counterparts. In taking the conversation further on inequality, stereotypes, and getting women into the decision-making process, I'm being joined by the Minister of State for Industry, Trade and Investment, Mariam Katagum. You're welcome to Business Express. And also from Lagos is Ms. Fumi Folorinshaw, AFCFTA champion for the private sector of the transportation and maritime sector. She's also the Secretary General, African Ship Ownership Association. You're welcome, ma'am. Okay, so let's start with the minister, the honorable minister. How would you describe workplace stereotypes, and has it in any way taken a toll on you?
Thank you very much. Perhaps just briefly to say that I started my career as a teacher and then continued in the civil service. So to a large extent, I would say that as a much younger officer, there were some perceived biases, what you would call workplace stereotyping. Perhaps the notion that you couldn't do certain jobs as men would do. There were cultural biases because I would also dress in my typical northern attire. You could also have certain jokes that are culturally not acceptable, or certain religious biases. But along the line, I think I was able to hold my sway because perhaps having had a very exposed kind of education, starting off in Kaduna, going to Ilorin, going to Lagos, going to Zaria. So you learn to sort of accommodate all kinds of nuances from different people. But by and large, not everybody can cope with workplace stereotyping because it could be perceived as harassment. And for some people, it's a disincentive. It could make the workplace very nasty. They don't feel like coming to work, or the workplace becomes a place of dread. So my suggestion to most leaders is to try and look at your staff, because some of the workplace biases go a little bit, they're subtle, they're a bit unnoticed. So you need to talk particularly to female staff, just to check on them, find out if there are any issues, because you'll be surprised when they begin to talk. Then that's when you'll be able to take some precise decisions to enable them overcome those stereotypes.
Okay,
but by and large,
Minister,
I think
if I may come in here, I would just want to find out from you, still on the issues. Did you make any pledge to challenge yesterday? And if you made any pledge, what is your challenge for this year?
I think my challenge for this year is to fight poverty, because International Day yesterday, yes, is to fight challenges, and the challenge I've taken is poverty. Poverty comes in various forms, beginning from illiteracy, going to lack of means, lack of empowerment for women. So that is my own challenge, and beginning to think of how I'm going to make an impact. Because if you don't fight illiteracy, you are not going to get at most of the common problems or common challenges that are facing women today. And I talk about illiteracy in any language. It doesn't have to be in English. You must empower the women. They must have some level of literacy to enable them participate effectively in day-to-day living. So that's my challenge, is fighting illiteracy. That's what I want to look at.
Okay, so it is also said that when women lead, results are seen and examples abound right here in Nigeria, and of course amongst Nigerians in the diaspora. But it may seem that younger women don't get opportunities like the older women. Why is that?
I think also it's a matter of perception. We were all younger women at one point in time, and we felt the same. We had to work twice as hard as the men. In fact, going the extra mile, to be sure you turned in your work on time, you met your targets. I remember that I once had a boss who would say that rather than miss a target, you don't sleep. So you work from midnight till early in the morning. So I think it's a matter of perception. But be it as it may, there are many opportunities now for young ladies. It's not sufficient, but we're trying to make more of such opportunities. I remembered yesterday, the Honorable Minister of Women Affairs made mention. Last year, we took in an intern each of the ministers. We took a female intern that accompanied us right from the morning throughout the day, trying to get them to understudy what does it mean to be a minister, what does our work entail. So we need to have layers of mentorship, and information is very key. Because if you don't provide information to these young ladies, information, strategy, how to get about looking for opportunities, or how when they see the opportunities, they're able to grab the opportunity. Because opportunity comes once in a while. So all these things are there, but as I said, information is key. We, the older ones, need to mentor more of the younger ones. They have one advantage, which is they are more IT savvy than us. So they need to go online. When you find opportunities, look for someone, whether a community leader or somebody in position. I always have an open door policy. Young people, women particularly, come to my office looking for information, and we provide information, we guide them. So there are a lot of opportunities, but it is also for us to create that enabling environment that will enable them to say that they've seen an opportunity, but they need one sort of support or the other.
Okay,
So there
Minister,
comes the
ma'am,
networking.
can I just pause you a bit so that we bring somebody who will be speaking about opportunities? Let's join Ms. Fumi in Lagos. And she's, of course, in a tough that most people see to be sort of male dominated. So, Ms. Fumi, can you speak to us? How is it with you in the maritime sector when we're talking about opportunities for women?
Thank you very much. Opportunities for women in shipping is immense. Today, we have a formidable group of women in maritime, and they're growing in numbers. The stereotype that the industry is male-dominated is being whittled down slowly but surely. However, there is a window of opportunity for women in ship ownership.
Okay,
That is not as a freight forwarder, as a ship's agent.
So I think before we get the connections right with Ms. Fumi, we'll go back to the minister. So what are the developmental advantages before Nigeria if young girls and women get equal opportunities like their male counterparts?
Well, first of all, it's been established. You can't have development. At least, research has shown, if we take the Sustainable Development Goals, which are the current goals that we've all committed to, you can't achieve them without gender equality or parity. So, because that means you're leaving half of the population behind. So it is imperative. As I started off by talking about education, it's imperative to provide equal access to education to both boys and girls. It's imperative to provide that environment for them to explore, because education is a wide gamut. They can look at the sciences, they can look at the arts, music, etc., wherever it is that their passion is. So you must create those enabling environments. Also, you look at the family background, perhaps some of them would require some state support, scholarships and so on, to enable them get through. Then when it comes to employment, whatever employment, you must be sure that you have a kind of equity in terms of recruitment. whether in the federal service, the state service, in the private sector. And there's practically no job. There's no job yet that a woman cannot do. And in fact, there are jobs that women have been proven to do better than men, a lot of jobs. So there shouldn't be any barrier to employment opportunities for women. And then women contribute their quota to development. So when you look at the economy, the micro, small, and medium enterprises, a lot of women entrepreneurs, they are the ones, on a daily basis, taking the crops, making sure this goes up to the market, goes up to export, trying to balance, family life and work and economic activity. So
No, but
definitely,
for most people, ma'am, if I
gender
may come in
parity.
here,
Yes.
if I may come in here, for most people, the question will be after the celebration. Yes, we're talking about the stereotypes and the inequalities and trying to get an equilibrium. What next? How can the conversation be sustained for desired results to be achieved if women are contributing to this extent to nation building?
Well, yes, after the celebration, my own take of any celebration is a point of stock taking. And having taken stock, we need to have a strategy as how to take the conversation forward. And for me, as I said, information is key. We, the women, we need to network. And in whichever sectors we're operating in, we need to network and then be able to take the women issues. What are the issues? What are the barriers that are stopping women or hindering women from making progress? And then we take, in our own different ways, we take these challenges or barriers and begin to unpack them and see how can we contribute so that the following year we don't come back to the same kind of conversation. We should be able to see some progress. If this year there's been a lot of conversation about women in leadership position, we need to now within the political setup see how can we increase women participation in leadership position in politics and so on. And so that by next year, we'll be able to say, or halfway, yes, this is what we have achieved. So for me, it's that very strong networking, looking closely at what the issues are and taking all the wider sector of the community to be able to achieve our goal. So we shouldn't
Minister,
come
let
back
me just
next year
also
and
chip
be
in
talking
this
about the same
question.
challenges.
Let me chip in
Yes.
this question. You advocated and got 45% of survival fund, for instance, allocation for women entrepreneurs. But the last time we checked, women are yet to completely access this quota. What are the dynamics here?
Well, actually, for the MSME survival funds, yes, Mr. President approved that we should give 45% for women-owned enterprises. First of all, I think maybe there was a bit of lack of trust. Many people didn't believe the program would work. But we also made sure that these things are online so that there's transparency. And the issues we had with the female-owned enterprises, in some states, we were pleasantly surprised. A lot of women mobilized. And I've used an example, 1 or 2 states, female politicians mobilized and got the women, got laptops and so on, got them to register. In some states, young girls went from house to house, to try and mobilize the women. But what we've done also to fill in the gaps, because now we've gone almost more than 2/3 of the way. So we look at where we see a woman has already started off an application and for one reason or the other hasn't completed. We put a phone call. My staff put a phone call. Madam, you didn't complete your application. You need to put this, you need to put that. So we've gone out to sort of headhunt for those women who have indicated interest. And with that, in some states, as I said, we've exceeded 45%. There are a few states, and mark you, in some areas, generally we're over 40%. It's only areas like transportation that we're having a little bit of challenge because of the nature of
Okay, Minister,
transportation.
ma'am. I'm afraid this is the most we can take in this interview, but definitely we're going to come back to get more of your viewpoints. Thank you. I've been speaking with the Minister of State, Industry, Trade and Investment, Mariam Katagum. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Okay, great. Now, on our Surviving COVID-19 series, today we'll be bringing to you this report on how hairdressing business is thriving in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, as put together by Joy Ubani.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
The booming business of attachments has experienced impressive growth in recent years, and it is largely by patronage. Recently, the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic has affected hair attachment business in the global market. Hair attachments, which is one of the affordable synthetic hair used for braiding, is no longer affordable as many lament on its high cost. However, some residents of Uyo, the Akwa Ibom state capital, say despite the increase in the price of hair attachments, they cannot afford not to look good.
Because of this corona outbreak, because after the pandemic, when we released the lockdown, the price of everything, not even attachment, everything went up. And that attachment was very, very high.
As we speak now, based on how the country is going, the economic is going, so most people now, we're going for weeks.
For those of us that cannot afford attachment anymore, we go for something cheaper like wool, yeah, or maybe fix your hair.
Some dealers of hair attachment attributed the cause of increase to global economic situation.
They are buying it now. You know, women now, they will buy, even if it's 1,000, they will buy just to look good.
Attachments, yeah, it's expensive, but not that expensive. Even the commoner can afford it. Every day it's increasing. Like as of some months back, we do sell like a pack, like a pieces of it, 815 naira.
Actually, they buy, but the demand now is coming low than before.
Actually, not our fault, because the company that we bought it from, they do sell it at a higher rate. That was before the lockdown. It was lower, but I think the whole thing started after the lockdown.
Considering the high cost of hair attachment, the business still witnessed patronage. As they say, looking good is good business.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Okay, so we're getting back to Ms. Fumi now via telephone. Ms. Fumi, sorry for all the internet problems that had affected us in the course of the program. So it is common to see women vanish at the top of boards. You get them at the lower level, but while you're ascending, the women are just not there. So how would you describe this journey, and what are the parameters responsible for this?
Get to the top. Once you start a journey, you do not stop until you get to the top. Perseverance. Remove the stereotype. It is in the minds of people that this industry is male-dominated. But you have records today of top ship owners, not only in Nigeria. At least there are 3-4 women right now who own ships in Nigeria. And therefore, I am saying to women, after the talk yesterday, we have a history of women who own ships. And therefore, perseverance will get you to the top.
So the trade space is opening on the continent. How beneficial is this for women in the trade environment?
Fantastic opportunities. Fantastic for women, because, like I said earlier, you may not have caught that, we have a formidable African
maritime group of women right now, formidable in all spheres and stratas of government. And therefore, women as a bloc, African women as a bloc, can find space in the African Free Trade Area Agreement. The commitment of the African Union chairperson is to use his person, his position, to further the cause of women and youth within the African Free Trade Agreement right now. Therefore, women in the transportation industry have that window of opportunity and can key in and must key in. However, the talk ended yesterday. The strategy starts today. Thank you for giving us an opportunity to speak to you. Women must come together, whether in the finance industry, whatever it is, all over Africa, to key in into this African Free Trade Agreement. Don't forget, there's also the protocol on women and children within the AFCFTA.
Okay, thank you very much. This is the much we can take. Been speaking with Ms. Fumi Folorunsho of the FCFTA transport sector, and we'll be coming to you in subsequent programs. This is where we end this edition of Business Express. Remember to keep in touch with us, so do send in your comments, questions and observations, and you can also be informed that all episodes, you can get them on our YouTube channel, and you can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is NTA News. Now, the hashtag is Business Express, returns Wednesday at 3 p.m. Be safe out there. I'm Leah Katun. Baba Tunde.